Hello, everyone. Welcome to your weekly dose of truth tarot with me, Terry Ann Nikitas at laurbanretreat.com. You can go and sign up for my upcoming class, Fairy Tales. That's going to be February 3rd. And that's going to explore some lovely fairy tales to help us out with all different things, our lives and the cards. If you're doing tarot, if you're doing any kind of predictions with the cards, it helps you see the themes that run through our lives. So you could think about that. And what else are we doing? I should be down in Florida by the time you start to see this video. But I'm still in the cold. It's not snowing today, but definitely cooler than it was yesterday. Everything's all icy. So what we're going to look at today, last week we looked at the economy. This week I want to look at, what our moods are going to be like, how we're going to feel generally through the year. I'm not really doing just the week, by the way. It's for this week. It predicts from this week, but I'm looking at the moods for the year. How is this planet? It's not for you in particular. It's going to be the general ambiance, because that's going to help us if we know that generally at certain times of the year, there's going to be a collective, let's say, doom and gloom energy. We can do whatever we need to do to protect ourselves. If we've got a general energy of happiness and we are sadder, we can try and absorb that energy. So I'm going to work through seasons. So how I'm going to do this is play around with, here we are in winter in the Northern Hemisphere. So Southern Hemisphere is going to be summer. And I'm looking at, these, let's say, to the 21st of March. So to the 21st of March, we've got Judgment. So if you look at that card, that is always about how we are being judged by divinity, by God, right? That judgment is never the judgment that we have. Well, I'm exaggerating here. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but rarely is it clear, how we judge a situation. Like someone could hurt someone else on purpose. And you might say, well, that's a clear statement that that person who hurt the other person intentionally should be punished. They're a bad person. Yeah, okay, in our human laws, we're going to punish that person for doing that, and that's fine. But in the grand scheme of things, through all of existence, where time has no past, present, future, everything is occurring at the same time, you could look at, well, maybe in that moment, this individual was animated, or there was a causation that occurred. Let's say the other person looked at them funny and they decided to attack the individual, and then they're arrested. But that person is acting out something that the other person might have done in a past life, and they have something to learn from it. Now, we're not here to necessarily figure that out. We're here to kind of go, I understand this person needs to be stopped, because they could, that person might not have been the one that was hurt by the individual. They might be just a person who goes around hurting people. For whatever reason, God has put that person there to do it. But each of those people that he's hurt has to learn something. Maybe it's to learn compassion towards someone who does the hurting. Maybe it's to learn that, certain things should not be done, etc., etc. So this card talks about that judgment. So we're looking at these 2 months, well, it's less than 2 months now. We're looking at the way in which we judge, and we need to reevaluate it. So if you think about this little fire here, when we're looking at an emotion, watch that your judgment is not coming from, a heated place where you're angry, where you're experiencing arrogance, where you're experiencing holier than thou attitudes, right? There can be too much fire. Also, too much fire in Chinese medicine is in the heart and the small intestine. The small intestine is about discernment. Of course, that relates to the small intestine judging whether we toss out certain pollutants or we keep the good stuff in, throw out the bad stuff. Great, we need that. So that discernment, if our gut brain is not working properly, what will happen is we'll let some poisons into the body. So we don't, if we're getting all heated up and we are extreme in our views, right? So there's a lot of talk these days, which I never had maybe the appropriate words for, but I think in the old days when I was young, it was kind of bleeding heart liberalism. That is, I'm going to have compassion and empathy for someone without discernment. Like I can have empathy for someone who's had a difficult life and is committing crimes. Of course we can. We've all, well, hopefully we've all read Les Miserables and the plight of Jean Valjean. It's such a conflicting story, isn't it? We can become very conflicted. We look at the story and go, okay, he didn't have bread, so he stole some bread to feed his child. But at the same time, I understand, yeah, okay, why not? But afterward, he learns that he could go and he was going to steal some silverware from the priest, and the priest said, "Take it. I hope it helps you out. I hope it's going to be a good thing for you, right?" And you think about that and say, well, he didn't think about that before. He could have gone to the church. Especially in those days, the church would feed the poor. Why couldn't you go to the church? Why was your first thought to steal? Why? Of course, we wouldn't have a story without it. But my bleeding heart, liberalism says, or my compassion, my empathy, well, the poor guy, he just stole a piece of bread. Why are you arresting him? But at the same time, the whole heroic journey unfolds and lets us know, okay, maybe that wasn't what he needed to do. And there are benevolent people, and you could ask. I just imagine someone on my street, if they're hungry, I'd hope rather than, robbing me, they would come up to me and say, "Can you feed me?" I'd be happy to help them out. As long as we have, I'm happy to feed you. Right. So there are things that we can't necessarily judge because there's a lot of flaws going on, and God has his divine plan. Now, if you don't work with God, I mean, I like saying God. You want to say divinity, you want to say whatever it is. We're in a matrix, we're in a simulation. That's fine. It's all the same thing, because the thing that we end up understanding is that the fabric of the universe, no matter who's devised it, like the Indians use Lila, Lila, the divine comedy, that the universe is just divine play and everything is a cosmic joke. That's a very hard one for a lot of people to understand. So what we're going to feel is this sense of needing to judge. It's going to come from a fiery place, and that need to judge will be fueled likely by faulty judgments. I'm going to say likely. I probably figure that if you are inflamed about something, not just feeling really strongly about, well, if you're feeling really strongly and you need to get that out using, pushing other people around, or, kind of like this picture. Let me look at the picture so I could get a clear message, right? Right, look at them discussing, those three men discussing. Right, there's a class and we're discussing. So that judgment needs discussion. Not, once in a while you might lose it, of course. When you see something unjust, you might lose it, but it's really time, really, really time for us to sit back and go, all right, enough with the losing it. There has been injustice in the world from year dot, right? Cain, let's say if we go to Cain and Abel, there you go. There's the first crime of jealousy and resentment. There are many more, but I'm just using that as a starting point. This is where we need to examine ourselves and see, can we have discussion? Can we have discussion without becoming impassioned by the fire of anger or impassioned by the fire of over dramatization of the problem that leads to irrational behavior? Okay? Words are great. Use your words, communicate, but don't go ahead and just say, well, let's just hurt people. Let's just be violent. So I was going to do a lot more, but I think that that's a good one for this week and the next few weeks. That was really strong. So I'm going to leave that as it is, as a prediction and something we can start to do something about. Okay, so that the video doesn't go on too long. Have a great week. Bye.